All right, we're going to peel back a couple of layers of the onion today with my next guest, Mike McCormick. He's a former stenographer. He worked in three administrations, Bush, George W., Obama, and the first year of Trump from 2002 to 2018. He was taking notes, if you will, as a stenographer. Mike McCormick, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to be on with you.
Good to have you here. So you wrote an almost insurmountable evil, how Obama's deep state defiled the Catholic Church and executed the Wuhan Plandemic and other things. So you were in the room, literally, taking notes on a variety of things. But I want to focus on Joe Biden for a moment, because just before we came on, you said the corruption was crystal clear, even when he was vice president, because you were not there when he was president, but you were around him as vice president. Did you do stenography for the vice president, Joe Biden, at the time?
Yes, I worked with Joe Biden specifically from 2011 to 2017. He left in January.
So would you say you were the principal stenographer then for him?
Yes, I listened to almost everything he said. And back then, he was pretty physically active and very talkative, not what he was in 2020 when he was running for president from his basement.
Well, let me ask you about that real quick. 2011 to 2017, did you see a decline in Joe Biden mentally and physically during that stretch of time?
No, not at all. At that time, I started seeing a decline in like 2018, 2019, and it was really noticeable by 2020. By the time he was on the campaign trail in 2020, he was declined. I was actually on Fox News in September of 2020 with Laura Ingraham, and I said, look, he's a shell of his former self.
What do you think happened?
Well, they covered it up.
No, what do you think happened? What was the decline? What triggered that? What do you think happened?
He was just an older guy who got really feeble really fast. He had one doctor from the same time he was vice president all the way through his presidency, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and that guy helped him cover this up with his handlers. So, this is a pretty serious thing they did with the presidency. And part of that goes into the book I wrote, The Insurmountable Evil. There was a plandemic set up by Biden and his handlers and his operatives starting in 2014. And it went all the way through 2020 campaign, and then we wound up with the presidency of Joe Biden. It's an absolute tragedy.
So Joe Biden was there, and he opted not to run for president in 2016. Why did he not go? I mean, you were there. What were the decisions then?
Beau Biden died in 2015. He couldn't handle the fundraising on top of his grief.
So that just shot it down. All right, so let's talk about the corruption. You told me in the break just before you came on, corruption. Tell me about the things you heard, not just about the pandemic and COVID and all of that. What about the money coming in? What about selling the the Biden name during the Obama years? What about Hunter Biden? Tell us what you know.
Well, I did get a copy of the Hunter Biden laptop in 2021 from the Marco Polo Group. And so I was able to look at, because I traveled with Joe, and when I traveled overseas with him. So I went to the Vatican with him in 2016. I went to Russia with him in 2011. Went to Ukraine with him 3 times. I was able to look into that laptop at the email traffic that Hunter and his partners were doing in April 2014, just before we went to Ukraine for the first time with Joe Biden. And that's where the criminality was. And I wrote about that in that book, The Case to Impeach and Imprison Joe Biden, which was released last year. And I talked to congressional investigators about it. I saw on Air Force 2 in 2014, going into Ukraine in April, I saw Jake Sullivan commit a crime, and I told the FBI about it. They didn't act on it. I told congressional investigators about it. What
crime?
They didn't act on it. He came back and spread malfeasance. It's a conspiracy. He was part of the Biden crime family conspiracy. Hunter Biden was secretly on the board of Ukraine while Joe Biden was taking a flight into Ukraine. And Jake Sullivan came to the back of the plane, and that press asked him, what's Joe Biden bringing for energy assistance? And Jake Sullivan told him 4 things. 2 of them directly benefited Burisma. One of them ran through USAID at the time. Joe Biden used the Biden crime family used USAID as their crime family payout.
So how much money from USAID went to the Bidens? This is an important question because that's top of the fold right now.
In the Burisma, it's unknown. they kind of covered it up. The embassy in Ukraine was covering for that. $200 million went from USAID that was in November of 2014 to support something called Predict2, which was virus surveillance done in China and around the world by a company called Metabiota. Metabiota was a company Hunter Biden had invested in December of 2013, right after he got off the plane with his dad in China. So Metabiota was then working in China. So there was a lot of connection between the Bidens, Burisma kickbacks, Metabiota kickbacks, USAID over the course of 2013 through 2016 when they got out of office.
Yeah, so it was happening all, and you were there. You're in
I
the
was
room.
there.
So let me ask you this, Mike. As a stenographer, sometimes they must have turned to you and say, "Hey, stop! Don't take this down." That had to have happened, right?
No,
Really?
it didn't happen because I was only there with the press, so they could never do that in front of the press. I was a press office stenographer. So all this discussion they had about the dark dealings, they did in private in the front of the plane. I'd be in the back of the plane with the press. They'd walk back with the sanitized version. And so evil can happen right in front of you and you don't understand it. The level of corruption can be right in front of you and you don't understand it. It wasn't until the Hunter Biden laptop came out that we really understand what was going on behind the scenes.
So how often were you behind the scenes with them?
Well, never actually. I was always, the press was always present. I would do background briefings with the White House through the years with the press present. But I didn't have a top secret clearance. I didn't have a classified clearance. So I didn't have to surrender my knowledge to the classified, say, no, I have to get classified clearance to write a book. I was able to write these books based on what I saw and heard, but I've been able to connect the dots from the 40,000 foot view that I've had over those years.
Right. So what do you think? Did Joe Biden commit crimes? Did Hunter Biden commit crimes? Did the First Lady? Did the other? I mean, when he passed around the pardons to the entire family, I mean, people got pardons that none of us had ever heard of in the Biden family. I mean, were they all? Was it really a criminal operation? Sir, seems
yes,
like it.
Absolutely. And I passed a crime tip on to the FBI 2 years ago, 2023 February. They never acted on it. So I'm going to pass another one on to them. We've got a different FBI director now.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I'm going to go to the U.S. Attorney in D.C. We'll see what he does with information. I witnessed Joe Biden and Jake Sullivan commit a crime on Air Force Two in 2014, and the conspiracy lasted through the Biden presidency.
Which means there'd be no statute of limitations. That's what the takeaway is. Mike McCormick, stenographer, with three presidents, George W., Obama, first year of Trump's administration, and now trying to tell the truth about what he saw on Air Force Two and elsewhere. Mike, really appreciate you being here. Good stuff. Tell the folks the name of the book again.
Thanks, Steve. The name of the book is An Almost Insurmountable Evil, How Barack Obama's Deep State Defiled the Catholic Church and executed the Wuhan Plandemic. It's on Amazon.
Really appreciate it. Mike, thank you for being here.